It was 2015. My little sister and I, along with a few of her friends, were heading out to camp in a forest in Maine. I couldn't even tell you the name of the place. It was deep, remote, the kind of forest that doesn't show up on every map. My sister wanted me to come because I was older and more experienced with camping. Was it weird camping with a group of 14-year-old girls? Absolutely. But I agreed anyway. I won't share my sister's name, but her friends were Casey, Barbara, and Lexi. She insisted I sleep in a separate tent, away from their gossiping circle, and I was more than fine with that. We brought 2 tents and all the usual camping supplies: food, water, tools. And, in my case, a rifle. I always bring a gun when I camp. Maybe it's paranoia, maybe it's logic, but being alone in the woods at night always made me uneasy. That first evening, I helped the girls set up their tent, then worked on mine. They sat around inside, talking loudly about whatever 14-year-old girls talk about: boys, school, social media. I finished my setup, extinguished the fire, and moved my tent close to theirs just to keep an eye on them. I flicked on my reading light and picked up where I'd left off in my book. Their voices floated over from the next tent, giggling, excited chatter. I tried to ignore it, until I heard a sudden shift in tone. They were talking about Snapchat now. Apparently, Lexi didn't have Casey on Snapchat yet, so she gave her the username. About 5 minutes later, Lexi said, confused, "Some random person just added me." I looked up from my book. My ears sharpened. The other girls encouraged her to add the person back, just to see who it was. Moments later, they were whispering about how the person's Snap score was only 7. Then came the message, "Hi. Send me a pic." They giggled. Whispered. I couldn't hear clearly, but when they burst out laughing, I could only guess they'd sent back something ridiculous. Probably a goofy group selfie. A few minutes passed. Silence. Then, screams. All of them. I grabbed my rifle and sprinted out to their tent. My sister was hysterical. "There's someone outside," she yelled. I fired 3 shots into the air, shouting into the trees. The woods swallowed the echo, eerily silent. I crawled into their tent. My sister clung to me. They explained. The random user had responded to their joke selfie. He sent back a picture too. It was a selfie of an older man. Creepy. Smiling. Standing right in front of their tent. That image alone gave me chills. That night, the 4 of them insisted I sleep inside their tent. I didn't argue. At sunrise, we packed everything in silence and made our way back to the car. What was meant to be a fun weekend turned into the biggest nightmare of our lives. I'd never cared much for Snapchat, until my friends pressured me into getting it. Everyone else had it, so eventually I gave in. And, like most people, I got hooked fast. Within a week, my Snap score was already over 1,000. One afternoon, while shopping, I snapped a photo of a pair of shoes I knew my friend liked and sent it to her. She opened it a few minutes later, but didn't reply. Strange. I sent a message. "What do you think?" She opened that one even faster. Still no reply. Now I was mildly annoyed. I took a selfie, pulling a sad face, and sent it with the caption, "What's up? Why aren't you answering?" This time, she replied immediately. "Where are you?" I texted back. "Home." Her Bitmoji stayed in the chat, she was still active. Then, "Where is home?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" That's when she asked, "What's your address?" A chill slithered down my spine. Something was wrong. Very wrong. I ended the chat and drove straight to her house. When she opened the door, her eyes widened. "Wait, you got my messages?" She hadn't sent me anything. She'd lost her phone the day before. Someone else had it. I left shortly after, a tight knot of paranoia in my chest. When I got home, I circled the neighborhood once before parking, just in case I'd been followed. My parents were out of town. My brother, out of state. I was alone. That night, lying in bed, I scrolled through Instagram, then opened Snap. That's when I remembered the Snap map. I could see where her Bitmoji was, and maybe track the phone thief. I opened the map. Her Bitmoji was on top of mine, directly above my house. My stomach dropped. I turned off the lamp, yanked the blinds closed. My breathing quickened. I couldn't remember if I'd locked the front door or the back, but it was already too late. I heard a noise. Downstairs. Someone was in the house. I tiptoed to the door, locked it, and dialed 911. The operator kept me calm, talking me through it until the police arrived. They found no one. Just my paranoia. Maybe. But then we searched the yard. And behind a bush, we found her phone. Still on. Screen glowing. Battery at 60%. Whoever had it hadn't gone far. I gave it back the next day. My parents returned. I started to relax again. But I never turned my Snap location back on. And you shouldn't either. This all happened just a week ago, before I moved. There was a local gym in my old New Jersey town, Black Bear Fitness. I used to go there regularly. Routine. Safe. Until the day I met Sean. He looked about 18. Skinny. Pale. Socially awkward. And off. He didn't belong in a gym, didn't even look like he knew what to do with the weights. I had headphones in, mid-set, when I saw him motioning to me. I ignored it, finished my reps, then pulled my headphones off. "Hey, do I know you?" he asked. I didn't like his tone. I told him no, but he wouldn't stop talking. He kept trying to spark a conversation. Desperate. Forced. Eventually, he asked for my Instagram and Snapchat. I should have said no. I should have told him I don't share those things. But I gave them to him. Big mistake. That night, I got a snap from Sean. I groaned. Opened it. It was a close-up selfie. Way too close. His head rested in his hand, a crooked half-smile on his face. Caption, "Hey." I muttered, "What the?" For the record, I'm a guy. This felt wrong. I removed him. Simple. Clean. Done. Not even a minute later, another snap. From Sean. I hesitated, then opened it. He was sitting up in bed now. No smile. Just wide eyes and clenched lips. Caption, "Why did you remove me?" I blocked him immediately. Relieved, I tossed my phone on the desk. But half an hour later, Sean added you. A new account. Another snap. I opened it and froze. It was a picture of my front lawn. Caption, "Answer me." My heart raced. How did he get my address? Then I realized, Snap map. I opened the window, peered out. Nothing. But then, taps. On the glass. I spun. Curtains trembling. Someone was outside. I yanked the blinds and flung the window open, grabbed him by the collar and pulled him in. It was Sean. He hit the floor. I punched him. Once. Twice. He slumped, dazed. Then I called 911. By the time the cops arrived, he was screaming at me. "I'll come back. I'll kill you." The police heard it all. They arrested him on the spot. A few days later, I moved out of state. Far away. But even now, when someone new adds me on Snapchat, I always wonder, is it him? In the summer of 2015, when I was 14, I was practically glued to SnapTalk, constantly sending goofy selfies and chatting with friends. One of the people I messaged the most was a guy I'll call Marco. We were on each other's best friends list, and not a day went by without us snapping something dumb or random to each other. One evening, Marco hadn't messaged me in a while, which was unusual. I sent him a funny photo to get a reaction, and when I saw that he opened it but didn't respond, I sent another. Still nothing. That was odd, especially because I happened to be in the app when he opened them. Normally, he'd reply within seconds. Starting to feel ignored, I texted him directly. My message was read almost instantly, but again, no response. I wasn't sure if he was upset with me or just distracted, but I decided not to overthink it and put my phone away for a while. Later that evening, I was texting with another friend, and Marco's name came up. That's when my friend casually mentioned that Marco had lost his phone a couple of days ago. At first, I thought it was a mistake. After all, someone was actively reading messages and opening snaps from his account. But my friend was certain. Just to be sure, I called Marco's home number. His father answered and handed the phone to Marco himself, and he confirmed it. The phone was still missing. That meant someone else had it, and they were pretending to be him. I let Marco know that someone was accessing his messages. He panicked and told me to come over, but I didn't feel safe doing that. Instead, I kept messaging the person with his phone, urging them to return it. All my messages were marked as read. There was never a response. Then, out of nowhere, I received a snap from Marco's account. I opened it expecting a blank screen or maybe a prank, but what I saw made my blood run cold. It was a picture of a man I'd never seen before. His face filled the screen, wearing an unsettling, exaggerated grin. The caption said, "Coming over." I called Marco again to ask whether he had our addresses saved on his phone. Unfortunately, he did. That meant this person, whoever he was, could know exactly where I lived. While I was still on the phone, I got a text from the same number. It simply said, "You're good looking." Marco didn't have any tracking enabled on the phone, so there was no way to trace it. That night, I barely slept. I kept the lights on, the window locked, and checked the door every hour. But despite the fear, I eventually dozed off. Somewhere around 3 a.m. I woke up suddenly. The room felt stiflingly hot, which was strange, considering the AC was on. As I sat up, trying to adjust to the darkness, a white flash exploded through the room, the blinding kind you only get from a camera flash in total darkness. My eyes burned as they struggled to adjust, and that's when I realized the window was open. A man, the same face from the snap, was leaning halfway into my bedroom, a camera in his hand. Paralyzed with fear, I screamed. The man quickly scrambled backward and disappeared into the night before my parents burst in. I could barely explain what had happened, my voice still shaking. The police were called immediately. With some effort, they were able to trace the phone signal to a house about 2 miles away. They'd arrested the man that same night. Marco got his phone back. As for me, I got something like peace of mind, though it was weeks before I could fall asleep without checking every window twice. I was only 13 at the time, still in middle school, still figuring life out. There was a girl I really liked, and to my surprise, she had started sending me selfies on SnapTalk. Every evening, we'd exchange a few snaps and like messages. It was innocent and fun, until one night changed everything. I was sitting on the couch watching TV when she sent me a photo of herself lying in bed. There was no caption, just a relaxed selfie. A few minutes later, another picture came in, almost identical, except this one had a caption. Still, something about it didn't feel right. Maybe it was the lighting, or the slight tension in her expression. But it wasn't until I looked more closely at the background that I felt the first wave of unease. Behind her, just barely visible in the low light, was a tall, shadowy figure by the window. At first, I thought it might have been a brother or parent passing by. But then she sent another snap, same pose, same room, and the figure had moved. It was closer now. A hand was pressed against the glass, fingers spread wide. That's when my chest tightened. Something was wrong. I rushed to send her a warning, hoping she'd see it in time. Minutes passed in silence. She didn't reply. She didn't even open my message. I sent more, growing more frantic. I called, but she didn't answer. I didn't know her house number, and I was too far away to do anything. I lay in bed, phone in hand, staring at the screen, heart pounding. It wasn't until nearly midnight that she finally texted back. The message was short but enough to confirm my fears. She had turned to the window after reading my snap, and saw the man standing there, staring at her through the glass. Her scream startled him, but instead of running away, he climbed in through the window. She bolted down the hallway and woke her parents. Her father rushed to her room, only to find it empty, except for the open window and a few footprints on the carpet. The man was gone. It still unsettles me deeply. The only thing that saved her from whatever that stranger had planned was a coincidence, that I had been paying attention to the background of a selfie. That he had no idea someone else was watching. It happened nearly a year ago, during my final year in high school. It was a quiet Thursday night around 10 p.m., and I was sitting at the kitchen table, phone in hand, scrolling through SnapTalk stories. My parents were already asleep upstairs. Suddenly, I got a notification. A SnapTalk message from someone named Jonas. I didn't know anyone by that name, and the profile picture was blank. Weird, especially because I'm a guy, and random messages from strangers weren't something I usually dealt with. At first, I ignored it. But about 30 minutes later, another snap arrived from the same user. This time I opened it. The first photo was almost pitch black, just a faint silhouette of a face, barely distinguishable in the dark. The second photo was taken outside, pointing down a dimly lit road. It took me a moment, but eventually I recognized the street. It was my street, and the direction the camera was facing was toward my block. I started to feel uneasy. Still thinking it could be a prank, I messaged a few friends to see if they were messing with me. They all denied it. Some thought it was hilarious. I didn't. The next snap arrived a few minutes later. It was taken from the corner near my house. The old street lamp in the photo gave it away, that unmistakable orange glow. My friend Lucas, who lived just a few doors down, came over when I told him what was happening. He's a big guy and figured it was all just a joke, but agreed to hang out for a while. Then came another snap. This time, the picture was taken from my front yard, pointed directly at my house. My stomach dropped. Lucas and I jumped off the couch and ran to the front window. Nobody was there. We threw on shoes and checked the yard. I told Lucas to stay out front while I ran around back. Another snap came in just as I opened the gate. The photo showed my back door. Whoever it was, they were already there, just feet from where I was standing. I shouted for Lucas and burst through the gate, but I was too late. Someone had already taken off through the alley. We tried to chase them, but it was too dark. They disappeared into the night. Later, when I finally went to bed, I couldn't sleep. I kept waiting for another notification. Sure enough, by morning, there were 3 new snaps from Jonas. All 3 were photos of different windows of my house. The last one was my bedroom window. I blocked the account. I reported it to SnapTalk support, but they gave me nothing more than a generic reply. I never found out who Jonas was. Judging by the username and the photos, I knew it wasn't anyone I went to school with. It still haunts me that someone not only knew my username, but also knew exactly where I lived. It happened the summer I turned 13. I was still in middle school and had just started talking to a girl I liked named Maddie. We had been exchanging selfies on SnapTalk for a few nights, nothing serious, just silly filters and casual chats. One night, while I was lying on the couch watching TV, Maddie sent a snap. It was a picture of her in bed, smiling softly, no caption. A few minutes later, she sent another, identical, but this time with the caption, "Not much, you." The timer was set for 10 seconds, so I had time to look around her room in the background. That's when I noticed it, a shadow in the corner of the image, just behind the curtains. It looked like someone was standing by her window. I wasn't sure at first, so I checked again and sent her a message asking who it was. She responded with the same picture, same pose, but now the figure was closer. There was a clear outline of a hand against the glass. I panicked. I messaged her again, telling her to turn around, but after that, she stopped replying. I kept sending messages, then tried calling her, but nothing. The silence stretched on for over an hour, and I began to fear the worst. Just after midnight, Maddie finally texted back. She said that as soon as she read my message and turned toward the window, she saw a man, older, in his 20s, pushing it open. He had already lifted the glass before she could scream. As he climbed inside, Maddie bolted out of her room and ran to her parents' bedroom. By the time her dad got there, the man was gone. The window was open, the curtains blowing in the wind, and there was no sign of him. What unsettled me the most wasn't just the fact that someone was watching her. It was that he had already opened the window, and that if I hadn't noticed the shadow, if she hadn't screamed in time, something much worse could have happened. Ever since SnapMap became a thing, it felt like giving people a license to stalk you. Anyone with the feature enabled was basically broadcasting their exact location. I used to have it on too, maybe just to make it seem like I was always busy, always out. Dumb reason, I know. I'm in 11th grade. A junior. Snapchat is like social oxygen in high school. Even the loners have it. The really weird kids. Yeah, them too. One of them was Zachary, or Zach, as he called himself. Zach had always been off. Since elementary school, he'd float around the fringes of the crowd, always alone, always staring a bit too long. No one knew what was wrong with him, if anything, but everyone agreed, something about him just wasn't right. So when I got a friend request from someone named Zach Meister, I knew exactly who it was. Still, for some reason, I added him. Maybe I felt bad. Maybe I was just being nice. Minutes later, he sent me a photo. And then a video. I hesitated to open it. God knows what it could be, but curiosity won. I waited a few hours, acting disinterested. Then, in bed that night, I opened them. The photo. It was of me, sitting in the school lunchroom. The video. Footage of the lunch bell ringing. Kids getting up. Me getting up. Zach's camera zoomed in on me as I walked away. And at the bottom, the caption. Cutie LOL. I was creeped out. I should have blocked him right then. But I didn't. Later that night, he messaged me again. You live on Maple Avenue, right? I accidentally opened the notification. Yeah, I replied, without thinking. He answered instantly. I didn't open his next message. I figured ignoring him would make him lose interest. But the longer I waited, the more persistent he got. Snap after snap came through. Eventually, I put my phone on the desk, turned off the TV, and went to sleep. The next morning, I woke up freezing. My window was wide open. My closet door too. I sat up slowly, confused. I didn't remember opening either. Then I checked my phone. Snapchat was lit up with notifications from Zach. The snap started innocently enough. A picture of a sidewalk. Then, my house. Then, my bedroom window. Then, a photo of me, taken from outside. Then, a photo of him, inside my room. And finally, one last picture. Me in bed, taken from inside my closet. I sat frozen. My blood felt like ice. The messages followed. Why don't you answer? I'm gonna come visit you LOL. You still have SnapMap on, you know. I like watching people sleep. I found you with SnapMap. Hope that's okay. You're cute by the way. And then, are you up yet? What are you doing? I've been using Snapchat for a little over a year. Just to share funny moments or cool stuff happening in my life. Nothing unusual. I mean, every high school has that one kid, the one who takes jokes too far, the one everyone whispers about behind his back. At our school, that kid was Alex. Pale as a ghost, with a bowl cut that never changed and eyes that always seemed just a little too wide. Alex had a reputation, hiding dead rats in lockers, smearing weird messages on bathroom mirrors, and getting suspended more than anyone else in the building. One night, while I was in the middle of a game, I got a notification from Snapchat. New snap from Alex. I didn't remember ever adding him, but his score was visible, so at some point, I must have added him back. Maybe he found my snap code on Instagram. I set my phone down and finished my match before checking. When I opened the snap, I froze. It was a photo. A close-up of a door handle. Specifically, a lock, like the kind on our back door. The caption just read, "Hello." I screenshotted it immediately. I messaged him. "Why did you send me that?" He replied with another photo. This one was blurry, clearly taken through a window. My stomach dropped. It was our kitchen. I jumped up and ran straight there, looking out the window. He was on the deck, laughing. I bolted to the dining room, yanked open the door, ready to scream, but I stopped cold. Alex was still standing there, smiling, with one hand behind his back. I shouted. "Get off my property." He didn't move. Just tilted his head and slowly pulled his hand out. A knife. I slammed the door shut and locked it. My heart was slamming against my ribs. Through the glass, I yelled, "If you don't leave, I'm calling the cops." He just smiled again. Slowly, he stepped backward and walked off the deck like nothing had happened. I raced around the house, locking every door, every window. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I don't know what he planned to do. I don't want to know. All I know is this. That snap of a door handle might have been the only warning I ever got. It started 2 nights ago, and I still can't sleep. I usually get random people adding me on Snapchat, probably because I have my Snap linked in my Instagram bio. Not bragging, but I post a lot about my lifestyle, nice car, designer stuff, travel, so it attracts attention. Most of the time it's harmless. That night it was storming. Rain pounded the windows as I chilled on the couch with my friend, half watching a movie. My phone buzzed, 2 new friend requests. One from Casey Walsh. The other from Bree Owens. I didn't recognize either name. Both had really low Snap scores, like 200 and maybe 1,500. Probably bots, I figured. But out of curiosity, I added them back. A few minutes later, Casey snapped me. A black screen. With the caption, "You're cute." I didn't reply. It felt off, like someone playing a game or catfishing. But then I checked Snap Map. Both girls had their locations visible, and they were together. In a car. A few streets from me. That's when it stopped feeling like a joke. I told my friend I had to head home. The storm was getting worse, and it was getting late. I jumped in my car and hit the highway, driving slow through the heavy rain. The road was nearly empty, just me and the storm. Then, headlights appeared behind me. One car. Kept a steady distance. When I took my exit, it followed. When I turned onto my street, it followed again. Now I was watching it in the mirror with my heart pounding. I pulled into my driveway, cut the engine, and sat in the silence. The other car. It kept going. Then slowed down. Then stopped. Chills crawled down my back. I unlocked my phone and opened Snap Map again. Both girls were still visible. Right on top of my location. Right outside my house. My breath hitched. I shut off the screen and clenched my jaw. I couldn't tell if I was about to cry or throw up. I thought about making a run for it, but what if they were waiting? So I called the house phone. My dad picked up immediately. I whispered, almost crying, "Dad, come outside. Please, right now." As I watched the car outside, it started to reverse, heading back toward the driveway. Then the front door opened. My dad stepped out onto the porch. The moment he appeared, the car sped off. I ran through the rain and into the house. My dad grabbed me and asked, "Who were those men?" I blinked. "Men? What do you mean?" He looked at me, serious. There were at least 3 of them in that car. Big guys. Watching me. I haven't slept since. Last night, I swear I heard someone outside my window, leaves crunching, garbage cans scraping. Then, right outside the glass. "I know you're up. Don't move a muscle." It was my dad's voice, but he wasn't outside. He was hiding behind my bed. Waiting. Watching. He'd seen the car again. Seen them outside. Waiting. Tonight, we're keeping the lights on. One more sound and we're calling the cops. I don't know what those people wanted, but they found me through SnapMap. And now they know where I live. It all started with a simple friend request. A cold December afternoon, nothing unusual. I was scrolling through Snapchat when I saw the notification. Zach Meister added you. I knew exactly who it was. Zach Morley. The weird kid. He'd been off since elementary school, quiet, awkward, always alone in the cafeteria, never speaking unless spoken to. No one ever really knew if he had issues, but there was a heaviness about him. Something unsettling. For some reason, I added him back. Call it curiosity, or maybe guilt. Big mistake. Minutes later, he sent me a snap. Then another. I didn't open them at first. I had a gut feeling it'd be something bizarre. But that night, lying in bed, I gave in. The first snap was a photo. Me. Sitting at my usual lunch table at school. The second was a video. It started as the lunch bell rang, people getting up, noise, movement. Then the camera zoomed in on me as I stood and walked out of frame. The caption, "Cutie LOL." I froze. I wanted to delete him right then and there, but something kept me from doing it. Maybe I was trying to convince myself it wasn't that creepy. I was wrong. That night, as I laid in bed messaging friends, I got another message from Zach. "You live on Melrose Street?" My chest tightened. I replied, "Yeah." Instantly regretted it. He responded immediately. "Cool. I like that neighborhood." I didn't answer. But the messages kept coming. And soon, he sent pictures. I refused to open them. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. So I turned off my TV, dropped my phone on the desk, and forced myself to sleep. The next morning, I woke up freezing. My window was wide open. So was my closet door. I never leave either open. I sat up in bed, heart thudding. Grabbed my phone. New snaps from Zach. Dozens. I opened them one by one, hands shaking. First, a picture of a sidewalk, dimly lit by street lamps. Then, my house. Then, my bedroom window. Then, a photo of me, taken from outside. Then, a picture of Zach. Inside. In my room. Standing at the foot of my bed. And finally, a picture of me sleeping. Taken from my closet. I stared at the screen, nauseous. The room spun. Then came the messages. "Why do you take so long to answer? I'm gonna come visit you. LOL. You still have SnapMap on, winky face. I like watching people sleep. I found you. You're cute." I screenshotted everything I could. Not all the snaps, though, some were already gone. I showed my parents. My dad immediately called the police. The investigation uncovered a lot. Zach lived with his alcoholic father, barely supervised. Using SnapMap, he tracked me down, entered our house while we slept, and took photos from inside my closet. He was charged with juvenile breaking and entering. We never saw him again. Rumor is they moved out of state. I turned off SnapMap that same day. I haven't used Snapchat since. And I still wake up checking my closet door.